Most boys think becoming a man happens automatically. You turn 18, the world hands you the keys, and suddenly you are ready. That is the most dangerous lie you were ever told. The truth is far more brutal. Manhood is not a birthright, it is a conquest. And the battlefield is not out there, it is inside you. Tonight, we are opening the vault on 10 hard truths that no one teaches boys. Truths that philosophers, warriors, and kings all had to learn the hard way. Pain, discipline, silence, truth. These are the pillars that separate the men who lead from the boys who follow. And by the end of this video, you will understand why most men never truly grow up and exactly what you must do to make sure you are not one of them. Nobody owes you. Here is the first truth that will sting. The world owes you absolutely nothing, not success, not comfort, not even fairness. Nothing. Most boys grow up believing they deserve something simply for existing. They expect life to reward them just for showing up. But Epictetus, a man who was born a slave in ancient Rome, understood something most people never will. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. His master broke his leg, he owned nothing, and yet he became one of the freest thinkers in the ancient world because he stopped waiting for the world to be fair. Freedom begins the moment you stop expecting the world to provide. Think about your own life right now. How much energy do you waste being angry at situations you cannot control? How many hours do you spend complaining about what you deserve instead of building what you want? Entitlement kills growth. A boy waits for the world to hand him what he wants. A man goes out and takes it. But taking requires something most people avoid at all costs, and that brings us to truth number 2. Pain forges men. Every man you admire was forged in fire, every single one. The second truth is brutal and simple. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is the sculptor, and you are the marble. Nietzsche understood this better than anyone when he wrote, "That which does not kill me makes me stronger." But most boys run from pain. They avoid the hard conversation. They skip the extra mile. They choose the path of least resistance and then wonder why they feel so hollow inside. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi death camps. He lost his wife, his parents, his brother, everything stripped away. And yet inside that hell, he discovered something extraordinary. Those who have a reason to suffer can endure almost anything. Pain has a purpose. It shows you exactly where you are weak. It reveals what desperately needs to change. Struggle builds character. The gym does not build strength through comfort. It builds strength through resistance. And life works exactly the same way. Stop running from what hurts because what hurts is trying to help you grow. But this leads us to something even more uncomfortable. Kill your comfort. The third truth cuts deep. Your comfort zone is not protecting you. It is slowly destroying everything you could become. Every single time you choose ease over effort, you are stealing from your future self. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, warned his students about this trap 2,000 years ago. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Look around you, comfortable men everywhere, comfortable jobs they hate, comfortable relationships that drain them dry, comfortable routines that lead absolutely nowhere, and they call this living. If these truths are starting to shift something inside you, hit like and subscribe to keep unlocking the wisdom that transforms. Because what comes next will challenge you even more. Comfort is a cage. A boy seeks comfort, a man seeks growth, and growth only ever happens on the other side of discomfort. The Japanese call it kaizen, constant, relentless improvement, small steps forward every single day, regardless of how you feel. Which brings us to the fourth truth, the one that separates dreamers from the men who actually build something real. Discipline is king. A boy says, "I will do it when I feel like it." A man says, "I will do it because it must be done." Discipline. That is the fourth truth, and it changes everything. Motivation is a beautiful lie. It is a fleeting feeling that comes and vanishes like morning fog. You cannot build a life on something this unreliable. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when every part of you resists. The samurai of feudal Japan understood this at a cellular level. Their code of Bushido demanded action regardless of feeling. Rain or shine, wounded or whole, the warrior trained, as Aristotle himself taught. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Excellence is not a mood, it is a pattern carved through merciless repetition. The man who waits for motivation will wait his entire life. The man who builds discipline will build empires. Action over feeling. Start impossibly small. Make your bed every morning. Keep your word every time. Show up when you said you would. These tiny acts of discipline compound into something no one can ever take from you. but discipline alone is not enough if you refuse to face what comes next. Own your shadow. The fifth truth is the hardest pill to swallow. Everything in your life, every failure, every setback, every broken relationship, is your responsibility. Not your parents' fault, not society's fault, not bad luck. Yours. Carl Jung called this confronting the shadow, the hidden parts of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Boys blame the world for their suffering. Men look directly into the mirror. When you lose a job, a boy says the boss was unfair. A man asks, what could I have done differently? When a relationship crumbles, a boy points fingers at everyone else. A man examines his own destructive patterns. Radical responsibility is the foundation upon which real manhood is built. This is not about guilt or self-punishment. This is about reclaiming power. The moment you stop blaming others, you reclaim the ability to change everything. Own your life. Take the full weight upon your shoulders. Carry it willingly. Because the next truth reveals what real strength actually looks like, and it is nothing like what you have been told. Silence is power. The sixth truth will surprise you. Real strength is not loud. Silent. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the most powerful men in history mastered the ancient art of saying less. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the entire Roman Empire, wrote quietly in his private journal, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." He commanded entire legions, and yet his greatest victories were won in silence, against his own destructive impulses. A man who cannot hold his tongue will never be able to hold his ground. Boys react instantly. They argue every point. They defend every insult. They respond to every provocation as if their very identity depends on it. But a man listens first. A man observes the entire room. A man speaks only when his words carry genuine weight. Listen more, speak less. Try this when someone provokes you this week. Resist the burning urge to respond. Watch how the entire dynamic shifts. Watch how people begin to respect the man who does not need to fill every silence with noise. And speaking of respect, the next truth will change how you see it forever. Earn your respect. Truth number 7. Nobody on this earth owes you their respect. Not your coworkers, not strangers on the street, not even your own family. Respect is never given freely. It is always earned through fire. And it is earned slowly, through years of consistent action, never through demands or displays of aggression. Confucius understood this centuries ago. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Boys demand respect through intimidation. They puff their chests, they raise their voices, they mistake fear for genuine admiration. But here is what they never grasp. Fear vanishes the moment you leave the room, but true respect follows you everywhere. A man earns respect by becoming the most reliable person in any room he enters, by finishing what he starts without excuses, by treating the janitor with the same dignity he gives a king. Character, not status. Respect is built brick by brick, day after day, through 1,000 invisible choices that nobody applauds. And the single strongest brick in that entire foundation is what comes next, because without it, everything you have built will crumble overnight. Your word is iron. The 8th truth is as old as civilization itself. Your word is the truest measure of your manhood. Integrity. In the ancient world, a man's word was a binding contract stronger than any document, more sacred than any law ever written. Break your word once and you were finished. Dostoevsky, who stared into the darkest corners of the human soul, understood this deeply. A man who lies to himself and believes his own lies becomes unable to recognize truth. When you say you will do something, it must be done without exception. No excuses, no renegotiations, no convenient memory lapses. Boys make promises like they are handing out candy on the street. They say, "I will be there," and never show. They swear they will change, and nothing ever does. A man guards his word like a sacred weapon, because that is exactly what it is. Your word is the blade that cuts through doubt and builds unshakable trust. Promise kept, trust build. Start today, make fewer promises, but honor every single one of them. And this brings us to perhaps the most dangerously misunderstood truth of them all. Master your fire. Truth number 9 destroys a toxic myth that has poisoned an entire generation. Real men do feel, deeply, powerfully, intensely. Strength is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. A boy lets anger drive his fists into walls. A man channels that same anger into relentless purpose. A boy lets sadness pin him to the ground for weeks. A man sits with grief, learns its lessons, and rises wiser than before. The Stoics never once taught us to suppress what we feel. Seneca himself wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What the Stoics actually taught was far more profound. Feel everything fully, but let nothing become your master. Your emotions are fire, and you must learn to be the blacksmith, not the wood. Feel deeply, react wisely. The man who masters his emotions masters his entire destiny. The man ruled by his emotions is nothing more than a passenger in his own life. Practice the sacred pause. When anger rises, breathe first. When fear whispers, listen but do not obey. When sadness arrives, let it move through you like water through ancient stone. And now, the final truth, the one that makes all the others possible. The lonely climb. The 10th and final truth is the loneliest of them all. Solitude. Growth will cost you people. It will cost you familiar places. It will cost you the comfortable version of yourself that everyone around you had grown used to. And not everyone will understand why you had to change. When you start refusing to settle for mediocrity, people who settled long ago will resent you for your ambition. When you hold yourself to higher standards, those living by lower ones will call you arrogant, difficult, or too intense. Nietzsche knew this particular loneliness intimately. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. The path to manhood is walked alone, even when the whole world surrounds you. But hear me carefully, this is not a call to isolation. It is an invitation to understand that your journey belongs to you and you alone. Stand alone, stand tall. The men who transformed this world, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, Frankl, they all chose paths others refused to walk. They chose painful truth over comfortable lies, relentless growth over easy belonging, burning purpose over hollow popularity. That is what it truly costs to become a man. Tonight we open the vault on 10 truths that most boys will spend their entire lives running from. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates spoke those very words moments before drinking the poison that ended his life. He chose death over a life of comfortable ignorance. You do not need to go that far, but you do need to choose the harder path over the easier one every single day for the rest of your life. Man is forged, not born. These 10 truths are not punishments handed down to break your spirit. They are the ancient blueprint for building something unbreakable inside yourself. Nobody will hand you manhood on a silver platter. You forge it, one painful truth at a time, one disciplined morning at a time, one kept promise at a time. The boy who embraces these truths today becomes the man the world desperately needs tomorrow. If you made it this far, comment "forged in fire" below to prove you are ready to walk this path. The wisdom of the ages is yours. Use it well. If this unlocked something in you, subscribe for more. The vault has more wisdom waiting.